The expression genuine pretending was coined by Paul D'Ambrosio to describe a core insight of Daoism, on which we then wrote a book. This core insight is, everyone is always genuinely pretending, at least everyone who has an identity. It counters an idea that many people, including many philosophers, take as evident, that each human being has or is a true self. Our viewer Peter Potnoodle expressed a version of this idea in a comment on our video on Profilicity. Your identity is what happens when you're not even thinking about your identity. It's how you react, how you feel about yourself and others. You're not even aware of it most of the time. When you do become aware, it is generally a shock. That's me? Philosophies and religions, East and West, North and South, offer lots of accounts of the true self. Various conceptions of the soul, for instance, immortal or mortal, spiritual or material, good or evil. Modern Western philosophy revolves around ideas of the subjectivity, autonomy, or sovereignty of individual selves. Typically, the modern self is conceived as some form of agency, rooted in an I think or an I am, an indelible I, as in Descartes' cogito, or in Kant's apodictic claim, the I think must be able to accompany all my representations. Contrary to what Peter Potnoodle, Plato, or Immanuel Kant may suggest, however, an actual self, an essential soul, or a transcendental unit of self-consciousness are impossible to pin down. They're intuitions or religious or metaphysical imaginations. Contemporary research traces different ways in which a sense of self develops. Emotionally, in terms of feelings about oneself, such as shame. Cognitively, like when a child can recognize itself in a mirror. Or linguistically, when kids begin referring to themselves in language. No one is born with a sense of self, science says. Generalized feelings of self-consciousness, typically labeled as an early form of embarrassment, do not develop until around 18 to 24 months. More complex self-conscious emotions such as shame, guilt, and pride emerge even later, possibly by the end of the child's 3rd year of life. The gradual development of a simple sense of self into a complex identity is a long process involving the body, the mind, and society. Shame is indeed a good example for the existential depth of the sense of self. It has bodily expressions like blushing. It is an intense personal feeling and a powerful social tool of discipline. As we grow up, we develop, along with more complex self-conscious emotions such as shame, guilt, and pride, a complex notion of who we are. Culture provides identity technologies for doing so. Ancient epics are full of positive and negative role models for shaping a sincere self. The novels of the French existentialists show you how to become authentic. And today's online influencers show you how to create a profile. Through collective enactment and personal internalization of these identity technologies, the sense of self becomes second nature. Second nature and genuine pretending are oxymorons. Second nature is not natural, but through practice, it paradoxically becomes natural. Similarly, the genuinely pretended self is not a true self to begin with. It is contingent upon the society a person lives in. It arises through collective pretending, pretending as in child play. But like the language games Wittgenstein speaks about, identity games become very serious once everyone plays them. People truly commit to, pursue, and invest in them. Eventually, identity is genuinely felt and performed. Everyone is always genuinely pretending. As mentioned, Paul D'Ambrosio and I think that this is the core insight of Daoist philosophy, or the philosophy of the Zhuangzi. Early Daoists realized that a sense of self is necessary for humans. Life as we know it cannot be imagined without it. But at the same time, it can easily become pathological. Personal and social suffering arise from over-identifying with an identity. We tend to become identitarian or identity fundamentalists. The stronger a sense of self is, the more obsessive and repressive it can be. Taoism critiqued the sincerity culture of its time, and in particular Confucianism, which promoted an intense commitment to the mostly hierarchical roles in the family and in politics, like devoted son or loyal minister. Since it critiques Confucian sincerity, modern interpretations of Taoism tend to see it as advocating freedom and individualism. But I think that's wrong. It's to assume that, as in Western modernity, a critique of sincerity must necessarily advocate authenticity. Taoism is not about getting identity right, but about affirming that our sense of self is contingent and transitory. The insight that no one truly is, but rather plays their roles, can be therapeutic and enable people to play their roles well, and importantly, to let go of them when the time comes. Many stories in the Zhuangzi illustrate the philosophy of genuine pretending. And if you're interested in them, you can watch animated versions of them on our other channel, Philosophy in Motion, or read the book. The Zhuangzi includes some stories about the transition from being awake to dreaming. Modern interpretations tend to misread such stories, like the famous butterfly dream allegory, as being about the difference between reality and illusion. But that's not really correct. They are instead about the sequence of losing and gaining a strong sense of self that everyone goes through all the time. When we fall asleep, our identity dissolves. And when we wake up, we take on our genuinely sincere, authentic, or prophilic selves once again. Maybe we need those nightly breaks to be able to bear all that heavy identity work that we must do every day. Peter Potnoodle wrote, "Your identity is what happens when you're not even thinking about your identity." A strange experience sometimes occurs when waking up. For a moment, we're not sure where we are, or of our age, our relationship status, or even our name. Such moments are Daoist moments, in which what happens, different from what Peter Potnoodle said, is not our identity, but its absence. To experience this absence is to realize that everyone is, almost, always genuinely pretending. And that's just fine.